I'm Saul Science, and this is ABC-7 Extra Sunday Edition. I want to thank you so much for sharing your Sunday evening with us. The blockbuster movie Oppenheimer, have you watched it? Well, it brought back the nightmares of the long-term effects people suffered from the testing of the A-bomb near the Tularosa Basin. An art exhibit was recently unveiled at the Brannigan Cultural Center in Las Cruces. It showcases the lives and struggles of a group called the Tularosa Basin Downwinders Consortium, a group of families who suffered and continue to suffer the effects of the very first testing of the atomic bomb, made famous in the blockbuster movie Oppenheimer. Now, lives in southern New Mexico were changed forever, with many feeling the short-term and long-term effects of exposure to radiation. Many New Mexicans died, many others suffered the long-term effects. While the movie Oppenheimer shed light on the birth of the nuclear age, the federal government is slow in acknowledging its devastating effects. Advocates like the Downwinders have been fighting to get that recognition as well as compensation. 13 bills have been introduced in the U.S. House and Senate aimed at giving the New Mexicans the same benefits other Americans exposed to nuclear testing have received. Now, few of those bills made it to the floor until now. It's called the RECA, or Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, which includes possible compensation for groups like the Downwinders. Now, the Trinity site where the first atomic bomb was detonated is directly 130 miles northeast from El Paso and 95 miles from Las Cruces. And it's in Las Cruces that ABC-7's Jason McNabb toured the new exhibit and spoke to one survivor of the Trinity site. He reports for ABC-7 Extra Sunday Edition.
From the big screen to right here at Brannigan Cultural Center here in Las Cruces, the work of Dr. Oppenheimer is being showcased, and with that, the stories of many generations who have suffered cancer from the Trinity test are now being brought back into the spotlight.
The opening weekend between Oppenheimer and Barbie was definitely I think our biggest weekend so far this year.
Oppenheimer is one of the hottest movies of the summer. But for nearly 80 years, many in southern New Mexico are still suffering from the real-life events depicted in the film.
When they heard the explosion, it shattered the windows, some of the windows in the house. The ground trembled, and they started crying and huddling in the corner because they didn't know what was going on. And my dad came in dusting himself with white powder. All the cows had powder on them.
Genoviva Peralta grew up in Capitan, New Mexico, 50 miles from the Trinity site. All 8 of her family members, including herself, have suffered from cancer, which they blame directly on radiation poisoning from the test. She's the only one still alive.
They all died of one form of cancer or other. It was devastating for everybody.
Her story and other people who have lived downwind of the test site are being showcased at the Trinity Legacies of Nuclear Testing exhibit at the Brannigan Cultural Center. It showcases the art and photography of 17 juried artists that attempt to bring the impacts of that test to life. Emmett Boer's photograph, titled "Come All Ye Faithful," is a centerpiece of the exhibit, showcasing what he calls a, quote, spectacle and carnival view of what he believes the Trinity site has become today.
It basically was kind of a culmination of 3 or 4 years of being involved with the Downwinders and reconciling, again, the historic view of things as they were taught.
A main reason for this exhibit? The Radiation Exposure Compensation Act is set to expire in July of 2024, and New Mexico has never been included despite hosting the first ever nuclear test. Mary Martinez-White, a member of the steering committee for the Tularosa Basin Downwinders Consortium, is pushing for lawmakers to compensate those affected before time runs out. New Mexico lawmakers are currently working to expand the act.
There are only 11 months left in the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. If this legislation does not get passed, New Mexico will be permanently left out.
The Downwinders agree.
You know, they're helping the other states. I don't know why they left New Mexico out.
Martinez-White adds, if you'd like to help the Downwinders, the best thing you can do is call your state leaders and ask them to help expand the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. For now, reporting in Las Cruces with our New Mexico Mobile Newsroom, I'm Jason McNabb, ABC-7.
And joining us from Santa Fe to talk about this very important topic is Ms. Martinez-White, who you just heard a short while ago. She is with the Downwinders Consortium, a group advocating for victims who were downwind of the atomic bomb testing. Ms. White met with New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham on Friday. And also joining us from Albuquerque is Bernice Gutierrez. Ms. Gutierrez, get this, was only 8 years old the day the A-bomb was tested in the Trinity site. Welcome to both of you, and thank you for joining us. Well, I want to start
Thank you for having experience.
Absolutely. Ms. White, I want to start with you. You met on Friday with the governor of New Mexico. Any updates? What is it exactly that you're looking to hear from the governor?
Well, we met with the governor as well as Secretary of the Department of Energy, Granholm, and some of her staff members. And the purpose of the meeting was to give them firsthand information about what our initiative is. But this is not new to any of them. They're familiar with who we are. We have met with the governor before, and she extends a lot of support to us. As a matter of fact, she has a family member who was affected. She grew up in Los Alamos herself and had a sister who died of glioblastoma. That is the same rare environmentally caused brain tumor that the president's son, Beau Biden, died of. And as you know, he is a downwinder from environmental contamination from burn pits.
Got it. Ms. Gutierrez, you were only 8 years old when the A-bomb was tested. Do you remember that day? And are you and your family suffering any effects?
Actually, I was 8 days old.
Oh, 8 days
I was an
old.
infant.
Got it.
And my family never really talked about it. And I'm sure it was because the government, their explanation of what happened that day was that it was an explosion, ammunition dump explosion. There was no reason for any of us to ever question that because we didn't know anything about bombs. We didn't know anything about radiation exposure. And so my family didn't have any reason to question.
Okay. Ms. Bernice, what we're going to do is we're going to take a really quick break, but I'm going to pick up your story when we come back. You're watching ABC-7 Extra. When we come back, we'll hear from a woman who grew up near the test bomb site and witnessed the moment the earth shook and her father walked in with dust on his shoulders. You're watching ABC-7 Extra Sunday Edition, where news comes first.
The new 2023 GMC Sierra AT4X is equipped to conquer the great outdoors. Or the great indoors. Welcome to the peak of premium off-roading. Or get 0.9% APR, plus over $1,700 purchase allowance and no monthly payments for 90 days on 2023 Sierra Elevation 5.3-liter V8 light-duty models.
Nobody can resist a DQ cone, especially for just 99 cents. And nobody but DQ makes a treat this perfect. Is it the creamy soft serve, the iconic curl on top, the tempting crunch of the chocolate shell, or the crispy cone? Yes, it's all that. Visit a DQ restaurant in Texas through August 27th for your 99-cent small cone, plain or dip. And try our caramel fudge cheesecake blizzard of the month.
DQ, that's what I like about Texas.
Ready, set, sprint to savings at Oscar Leaser's Hyundai of El Paso today. Save with 0 down on every new Hyundai in stock, like the award-winning Elantra. Lease today for $219 a month. That's $219 or 0 down. Save with 3.29% interest on Tucson and Santa Fe. Elantra, Tucson, and Santa Fe are in stock and equipped with Apple CarPlay. Hyundai Blue Lake, tons more tech and safety, and unbelievable fuel economy, saving you even more at the pump. Sprint to savings today at Oscar Leaser's Hyundai of El Paso.
In today's news cycle, viewers want in-depth coverage.
Going that extra mile, taking that extra step, making sure that everyone's getting the information that they need.
Great coverage. It's there all the time when we need it.
Viewers like Rudy and Michaela tell me they see the extra work that goes into the stories that matter to you.
It's in-depth.
It's something that's always on.
Very informative.
Context unmatched, depth uncharted, perspective uncompromised.
We love watching you guys.
ABC-7, where news comes first.
Family like ours, you know, we didn't have any money. My father died. He was outside. He had cancer in his eyes. He had cancer in his stomach. He developed Hodgkin's lymphoma. His skin was cracking open.
That was Genoveva Peralta, who grew up near Capitan, New Mexico. She spoke about the day the ground shook, windows shattering, and her father walking home with dust on his shoulders, which we can only imagine was radiation dust, and that was after the atomic bomb blast. Now, I also want to welcome back my guest. Joining us from Santa Fe to talk about this very important topic is Mary Martinez-White. Ms. White is with the Downwinders Consortium, a group advocating for victims who were downwind of the atomic bomb testing. Ms. White met with New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham on Friday. Also joining us from Albuquerque is Bernice Gutierrez. Bernice Gutierrez was only 8 days old the day the A-bomb was tested, near the Trinity site. Welcome to both of you, and thank you for joining us. And Ms. Gutierrez, I want to start with you this time, because I want you to pick up where you left off. You were talking about something going off. You were only 8 days old. Have you or your family suffered any effects of what was detonated near your home?
Absolutely. I was born in Carrizoso, which is about 35 miles east of Ground Zero. And all of my family lived in Carrizoso at that time. We moved to Albuquerque when I was 2 years old, but by then we had already been exposed. The cancer started with my great-grandfather, who died of stomach cancer in 1952. Then it continued with my mother, who suffered 3 types of cancer. She had thyroid, skin, and breast cancer. A brother had thyroid cancer, as did his daughter. His youngest daughter had thyroid cancer and is now getting treatment for breast cancer. Another brother had prostate cancer. My only sister has had 3 recurring bouts of thyroid cancer. My youngest brother has thyroid disease. And on the recommendation of my endocrinologist, I had my thyroid removed because I had nodules present. I had 3 children. My oldest son was diagnosed with myeloplastic dysplasia syndrome in 2019. His oncologist recommended he get a bone marrow transplant, so he went to Denver to get that procedure done. 10 months later, he wasn't feeling well, so his oncologist sent him back to Denver for further treatment. And he arrived at the hospital in Denver in April of 2019, and he never left.
So
the last month of his.
So it's not just the immediate family, but obviously your descendants. It's become hereditary, and now this is in your system, and you believe this is a result of that?
Absolutely. One of the researches that we've participated in is that it entered our reproductive systems. It entered.
Okay, apparently we're having some technical difficulties, but I want to pick up with you, Ms. White. Let's talk about what it's been like seeing others across America getting some sort of compensation, and your group, or the Downwinders in general, have not. What has that been like?
Well, it's a disparity. And it's not so much that they're getting and we're not, but what it is for us, Saul, is that we desperately need the help. We come from, Carrizoso, Tula Rosa, Mescalero, Capitan, but indeed the plume from the Trinity bomb went far further than just that immediate area. As you know, El Paso is within the 150-mile radius zone. And so it is us trying to get assistance for these harrowing deaths. They are causing people their livelihoods. To fight cancer is a minimum cost of $150,000. So it's for us, it's more about getting help than it is that they got and we did not.
So getting help so that you can get help. Let's talk about what it's been like all these years, seeing everyone else being compensated, and those right here in New Mexico, where it all began, have not.
Truly, that's been difficult for us because New Mexico is a state of patriots. And we are the state that produced the folks who died in the Bataan Death March, as well as the code talkers. My family, my father, my brothers have all served in the military, and for us to have the back turned on us is unnerving, that it's our own country that's doing it. And it's hard for me to believe, what kind of country does that to its own people?
Yeah. Let me ask you what went through your mind. Have you seen the movie Oppenheimer?
Absolutely.
What went through your mind as you were watching it?
First of all, it's a fantastic movie. I encourage people to see it. It's a great production, but it is a Hollywood movie. What I was very saddened to see, for example, was when they depicted the Pajarito Plateau, where Los Alamos is today. They depicted it as being a vacant, uninhabited place, and that is not true. We have stories of people who were displaced who they said that they were in their fields, that the beans were this high. They were told to get in their wagons and vacate the property immediately. So it was tilled, it was farmed, and all of those people were vacated immediately for the purpose of the Manhattan Project. And while we don't, we're not about not having safety for our country. That is not what it's about. Rather, it is about acknowledgement, because if we don't acknowledge it, then we could very likely do this to other people again. So it's about our receiving the acknowledgement, about getting help for, desperate help that's needed to battle these cancers. And we will continue to be patriots. We're trying to keep the faith here.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So we're going to take another break, but still ahead, compensation has been a long time coming, but there's still one loophole left before it is signed, before that bill is signed. I'll ask my guests what they believe it will take before it is finally passed. We'll be right back.
At Long John Silver's, our $6 shrimp baskets will save you from the sea of sandwich sameness. Whether they're fried to golden perfection or sizzling on the grill, our $6 shrimp baskets will have you hooked. Order online at longjohnsilvers.com. This year.
Have you ever dreamed of working in New York City or Chicago? Enroll now at Culinary Institute by Southwest University in our associate's degree in culinary arts and get the opportunity. Get innovative guidance and education from chefs Carlos Gaitan, Mikel Alonso, and Jonathan Gomez Luna. Finish in only 2 years by learning from 3 of the best chefs in the world and become a culinary professional only at Culinary Institute by Southwest University. For more information, visit us at southwestuniversity.edu. Culinary Institute by Southwest University, a passion for food.
This summer, happiness is a new Chevy. You can go farther, tow more, and bring along everyone you love. Your road to happiness begins in a new Chevy. Get 1.9% financing on select popular Chevy SUVs when you finance with GM Financial. Plus, make no monthly payments for 90 days. Chevy drives Texas. Find new roads.
The Book of Mormon is the best musical of this century. The 9-time Tony Award winner is genius, brilliant, phenomenal. The Book of Mormon is the funniest musical of all time. It's the gold standard for comedy that goes further than any other comedy in history. You won't believe how funny it is. You won't believe how much heart it has. And when it's over, you won't believe how much you'll want to see it again. The Book of Mormon, September 29th through October 1st at the Plaza Theater. Tickets at elpasolive.com/Broadway.
A blockbuster movie sheds new light on the harms the A-bomb testing caused on New Mexicans, but new law could help compensate them.
ABC-7 Extra, Sunday nights at 10:35, only on ABC-7, where news comes first.
Welcome back to this third and final segment of ABC-7 Extra Sunday Edition. Joining us from Santa Fe to talk about this very important topic is Ms. Mary Martinez-White. Ms. White is with the Downwinders Consortium, a group advocating for victims who were downwind of the atomic bomb testing. Ms. White met with New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham on Friday. Also joining us, we got her back, from Albuquerque is Bernice Gutierrez. Thank you so much for trying once again. And she was only 8 days old the day that one of the bombs was tested near her. Now, welcome back to both of you. And I want to start with you, Ms. Gutierrez. This has been a long time coming. At the very least, we're seeing that there'll be some sort of amendment to the RECA bill. What are your thoughts that finally there's a possibility in the horizon that you could finally be recognized and quite possibly be compensated?
Our hope is that because the Senate already voted and approved it, and now it needs to go to the House of Representatives, and our hope is that the Republicans in the House will also support it. We are advocating and lobbying the various congressional delegates from the House of Representatives in hopes that they will finally find some justice for us that's been long overdue.
Okay. And what is your hope will happen? When do you think this will finally be signed? And I mean, what is it going to take? Because you said you've been talking to representatives on both sides of the aisle to try to get them to finally come to the table and finally sign this. But what are they saying to you? What are they saying that it'll take to finally sign this? Have they said anything at all?
Well, one of the things that they've said is that it'll cost too much. That's not an acceptable reason.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that it'll finally get approved in the NDAA bill, and that RICA will finally come to New Mexico and other downwind communities that were affected by the radiation.
Ms. White, your thoughts on exactly what Ms. Gutierrez just said, that it would cost too much. Putting a price on a life, and in this case, many, not just then, but now, still the effects that we continue to have. Your thoughts on that she was told that it just is going to cost too much?
Well, first, let me say that we do enjoy widespread bipartisan support, and we are very hopeful that in the House of Representatives that it won't become partisan, because in the U.S. Senate, it was very bipartisan. Yes. And so we need both parties. Everyone was affected. And so the hope and the cost, what we're asking for is no more and no less than was received by other states. The amount, the compassionate one-time payment is $150,000, but that is what it costs to fight cancer. So we are asking for the bare minimum. In addition to the one-time compassionate payment, it helps us with insurance. And so again, we're not suing the federal government. We are just trying to work through an existing program that was provided to other states when indeed New Mexico was bombed first. And it was probably one of the most problematic bombs, because thereafter the plutonium was cut in half for Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Mm-hmm. So we were double dosed.
Mm-hmm. So do you believe that the compensation that you believe that you all deserve would be just for the immediate family members when the atomic bomb was tested, or do you believe that it should be for every family member who has felt the after effects from then to now?
It would only be for the people who actually get 19 different kinds of cancer that is covered. Now, we know that radiation affects every cell in the body, but the program currently as it exists allows only for 19 particular cancers. So it would only be for people who got cancer, not everyone, just who got cancer, and one of 19 types. So you'd have to qualify.
Your thoughts on that, Ms. Gutierrez?
Well, one of the things that, like to add to what Mary said, that's right. There's only certain compensable cancers that will be allowed to receive payment. It's kind of hard to, New Mexico has waited 78 years for compensation. And it's kind of hard to leave out people and families that have suffered from cancer or had loved ones die from cancer, to leave them out. But there's going to be certain stipulations and that will have to be met. And if they have to be met, then that's what we'll go with. But hopefully it will. One of the things that the RICA will do, the amendment, is provide RECEP clinics, which hopefully, especially in the rural communities, be able to ensure that people that live in the rural communities get to go and get free cancer screenings. So maybe by getting early detection, we'll save lives.
That's a very good point, Ms. White, that Ms. Gutierrez just brought up, that they'll be able to set up some clinics so you can get early detection. I neglected to ask you, Ms. White, did you or any of your family members suffer from this as well?
Well, we did, Saul. My mother died of metastasized cancer. It was all over her body by the time they detected it. So again, those early detection is critical. My oldest sister, the same thing, metastasized cancer before they knew what it was. It was all over her body. My father died of leukemia. I have a sister who is a breast cancer survivor, a sister who's a uterine cancer survivor, a brother who is a lung cancer survivor, and 3 siblings with autoimmune disorders. I'm the youngest of 10 children, and we used to have big families back then. And so the size of the families and the extent to the cancers in each of those particular families is striking, especially in a region where there's no industry but for White Sands Missile Range.
Right. Well, Ms. Mary Martinez-White, Ms. Bernice Gutierrez, I want to thank you so much for joining us on this Sunday evening to shed light on exactly what's going on. And of course, our hopes are with you all that this amendment finally gets signed. And of course, you can count on ABC-7 Extra to be there once it does happen and report on it as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, so.
And I want to thank you for watching. I'm Saul Saenz, and this has been ABC-7 Extra Sunday Edition. Thank you. Buenas noches. Gracias.
Thank you for watching. ABC7 News is now available on any of these streaming services, as well as the KVI